Hello, you guys, and welcome to my first Facebook Live. I usually record my podcast or um, do master classes, but I am excited to be here. Of course, is the day, the time, the exact minute that there's stuff going on out there through the window. So Thor is excited to share his opinion with us too. So welcome to the event of teens, and I'm going to say young adults, and that identify as an LGBTQ plus community. So this is a conversation that we need to have. It's a conversation that still I see teenagers in my practice. They still asking questions. They still feel uncomfortable. They still feel rejected. They still feel a lot of things. They still confused. So I am here. This is a conversation for parents, for adults, for mentors, teachers, anyone that deals with teenagers. If you don't know me, my name is Xochitl Rodriguez. I have been a mental health professional for over 15 years. I specialize and I have a lot of experience with teenagers. The majority of my practice is teenagers. And so I do also coach parenting teenagers specifically, just because I know there's a lot of resources for when you're pregnant, when you have a baby, with parenting toddlers and things like that. But there's not a lot of resources about parenting teenagers. So I do have a book that it's a guidebook, more like a very practical book that you can purchase on Amazon. It's called Enjoy Parenting's Guidebook. And I do have also an online course that you can purchase on or you can learn more about it on my website at xochitrodriguez.com. Like I said, I am pleased to be here. I know this is a conversation that we need to have. So also, if you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, you're more than welcome to listen. And I would really like feedback. I would really like your input. And why am I having this conversation? Why am I opening this space for you guys? Because I see the DMs, I see the questions. I have had friends that identify as LGBTQ plus. I have had coworkers. I've had clients, plenty of clients, teenagers, young adults, and grown adults also that are going through this, that have had to hide their identity from families and things like that. It's just very painful to watch when we have to hide who we truly are. So I have friends and family, and so I think it's just a conversation that it's very needed. And yes, I am a person of faith, and I will address faith at the end of this live. And I do have my strong opinions of those, but I always spread the message of love. I always spread the message of acceptance, of compassion. So let's go ahead and dive into into the conversation. So what to do when they come out. So I'm going to address kind of a little bit of the two, and I have my notes here. But sometimes I get all over the place. I'm in front of the camera if I don't have like an outline. So I am going to address uh, how do you present with a teenager that is barely a teenager, maybe 12, 13 years old. So how to address that age group, and then also I'm going to talk about that age group, and then also for up to young adults. So this is, like I said, this is for parents and anybody that has teenagers, or anybody that has anybody in the LGBTQ plus community in their lives that are still having feelings and emotions around it. So what do you do when they come out? First of all, if your early teen, 12, 13 years old, comes to you and says, Mom, I think I am blank, and that they identify as LGBTQ plus, they were scared to tell you. I know that was a very difficult step for them to take. So I don't know how they might have told you, or there's messages and things, and other ways, maybe a text message, because it's a little less uncomfortable, because they are fearing the rejection. So just acknowledge that that was a very difficult thing for them to say, because they are expecting not they're expecting the rejection, but they know that this is a major change. This is something that it's something that can alter some emotions in you. So just acknowledge that, and give him praise for that. It's like, okay, it was not easy for your child to say this to you. whether they're 13 or whether they come out when they're 20 or 25 or 45. This is not an easy thing to say because there's still a lot of judgment, there's still a lot of criticism, there's still a lot of rejection in society in general. There's still, and so we live in very different worlds now, and so they feel like they can belong to a part of the world, but they still get, it's still very confusing for especially for younger kids. Their brain's still developing, they're trying to figure out who they are, they're trying to identify with a peer group, they're trying to fit in, and all these things. So for them to acknowledge that they feel like they are part of the LGBTQ plus community, it's a huge step. So just know that that was very scary for them to say. They already said it, or when they say it to you, this might be a very difficult, this is not might be, this is a very difficult thing for them to say, just because they want to see your reaction. So if they already told you, you can go back and you can kind of mend some of the conversations. But if they will come and tell you, if you suspect that your kid might be, and they're just not telling you, so when they do, first of all, stay calm. They will tell you as much information as your reaction allows. So if you react right away, if you react in a fearful way, if you react in a defensive way, if you react however you react to it, that's when the conversation will stop. That's when they will kind of walk away and say, okay, this is not worth the conversation, because again, they were very scared to tell you in the first place. So be mindful of that and just kind of, watch your reaction and stay calm. And especially when they're younger, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we can make is sexualize it. We right away we go into, if my daughter had told me, tells me that she's a lesbian, or whoever, we sexualize it. It's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. First of all, not every person that identifies as LGBTQ plus community has been sexually abused. Now, I'm just giving you the information that I know from experience. This is obviously not therapy. This is mainly for entertainment and educational purposes. This is not part of therapy. I'm trying to fix anybody right now, or fix any relationships that you have to look for personalized care for that. But so don't sexualize it. That's the first thing that we do as adults. We sexualize it. And so just stay calm. It's like, okay, so if you identify as a lesbian, I'm just gonna kind of give names, so I don't repeat LGBTQ plus all the time, but so I'm gonna give the actual name of how I identify. So don't sexualize it, because if, let's say, your 12-year-old boy or 13-year-old boy is starting to be crazy about girls, but they're not sexually active at that point, would you sexualize? Like, would you sexualize your boy if he tells you, like, oh, I like this girl? Is that the first place where you go to? And I feel like a lot of adults, that's the first place we go to, or they go to, when there's where one of their children is coming out, or one of their students, or one of whatever, we sexualize it right away. But we wouldn't do it if we had a 12-year-old girl that is boy crazy, and we know that girls start being boy crazy whenever they're straight. They start being boy crazy since the age of like 9 or 10, because girls obviously we develop a little bit sooner. But so we don't sexualize it. We just take it like, oh yeah, the hormones are starting, and that's really what's happening. Like, the hormones are starting. They're starting to explore. They're starting to identify who they are. They're starting to, kind of define who they are and what they like, what they don't like. They're trying to fit in and things like that. So, yeah. So don't sexualize it. So, I know some of the questions that parents ask a lot, that kind of puts a little bit of a judgmental tone to it when they ask their teenagers. And like I said, I have throughout my 15 years of practice, and during those years, I was also I was also a teacher for high school. So I've had, not just in the mental health field, but also in the setting of of education. Um, Teenagers have told me, like, one of the first questions, like, well, how do you know? How do you know you're gay? Like, have you, again, we sexualize it. Like, have you experimented? Or, things like that. Have you been sexually abused? Have you, things like that. It's like, stay calm. Let's not make worst case scenario there. Let's not go there the first time. But let's go ahead and keep it to where it's like, how do you know? How do you? And I'm gonna ask that question. Like, if you're asking, if your child is telling you like I'm gay, and your reaction is, how do you know? Well, how did you know that you were not? How did you know you were not? How did you know that you like that I like boys? Like, I just did. Like, it was nothing that I had to explain. It was nothing. It was just, it's just the way that it is. And yes, there's a difference between, when they're very young, like I said, 12, 13, they find somebody attractive, or they find maybe like the popular girl, they're attracted to them. If you have a girl and they're attracted to them and things like that, and then it kind of gets their attention. But that doesn't mean that they sexualize with that girl. They just see a beautiful girl. They just see, and I'm not saying that popular girls are the pretty girl. So you know what I'm saying. But they see the pretty girl and they're like, oh yeah, she's pretty, and recognize that, but they don't sexualize it. We do. But they can tell the difference about, well, I like girls the way that a straight person likes boys. So if you ask them, how do you know? Well, how do you not know? Or how did you know when you were younger? So you can always ask yourself that question. So always kind of flip it to where, and this is something that I explore with my clients, when teenagers or with the parents. It's just flip the question to where, like, would you expect that from a kid that doesn't tell you that they're gay, that they're actually, heterosexual, and they're straight? Would you ask that question? And so, well, I'm going to address the whole fear and being a parent and things like that in a minute. But just like I said, it's just ask yourself, like, how would they not know? When I was, like I said, when we were starting to like boys at the ages of, I don't know, 10, 12 or whatever, I didn't know how, I didn't know why. I just knew that I did. It's the same thing that happens for them. So something that we have to remember here is that identifying as LGBTQ plus is not a lifestyle, it's not a choice, it's part of who they are. It's part of their identity. So we have to remember that this is not something that they're choosing, it's something that they are. It's a huge difference. Something that you choose, you can change. Something that you are, you cannot change. So we have to make sure that we understand that. And yes, when they're younger teenagers, they are still kind of exploring. But again, how would you know that you were straight? So they're still exploring, but they're exploring something because there's something inside of them. So when they're older adults, it's part of their identity. It's not a phase. I know a lot of parents, and I'm Hispanic, so I'm surrounded by Hispanics, right? And I hear the comments. It's like, oh yeah, it's just a phase. Oh yeah, they're just doing it to grab attention. Oh yeah, they're doing it because it's a in thing to do. Again, it has to deal with whether they are sexualizing or not. They might say they like a girl. If they are a girl, they might like a girl because she has these qualities that they are attracted to, but they're not sexualizing. So it's very different worlds. Okay. So in their mind. So once they sexualize it, and it's like, how would you not know? And it's not a phase. And again, it's part of their identity. It's part of who they are. Another comment that I see a lot, that I hear a lot from the teens that come to my practice, or have tried to have this conversation with their parents, is about, like, it's a phase, you're doing it for attention. And when you do that, when you dismiss this comment, it crushes their identity. And home should be the place for them to feel safe. Home should be the place that they come and they feel like they belong, like they feel they can be themselves, where they are accepted, where they are unconditionally accepted. And I've always said in my podcast and in my other interviews and things like that, the only unconditional love that we have is that of parents to our children. So when we say it's like it's just a phase, or you're just doing it for attention, or this is a choice, we're crushing their identity, so they feel like they don't belong, they cannot have a conversation with us, that we're not safe. And remember, any member of the LGBTQ plus community already has a hard time in society. Outside of the doors of your home, of their home, they're already feeling the pressure. They're already feeling the criticism. They're already feeling the, the pushback. They're feeling the bullying. They're feeling like the society gives them that enough already. And this is not a choice. This is their identity. And Hispanic communities, I've heard this in a lot, where they say, well, yeah, sure, you can be gay, but just not in my house. Just be gay outside. Like, I don't want to know anything. That's like you're telling your kid, like, okay, you can be Mexican, but not in my house. Or you can be black, but not in my house. Or you can be brown, but not in my house. You can do it outside those. It's the same thing, because this is part of who they are. This is part of their identity. Where you tell your kid, well, you can be straight, but just in my house, you can be gay. You see how when we flip the conversation, it's completely different. And I know there's two. So avoid dismissing the comment. Let them know. Okay, just so you know. I mean, I'm saying, you stay calm, but there's nothing wrong with you, and we're gonna figure this out. I don't know a lot of information. You can be very transparent in a very compassionate and loving way. I don't understand a lot. There's a lot of questions that I have in my head, but we're gonna figure this out. And thank you for telling me. Thank you for letting me know. And like I said, if they already came out to you and you had a reaction and things like that, you can always go back and help them feel accepted. Help them feel like they belong with you, that they belong in your house. Um, so there's two positions. One, it can be like it scares you. As a parent, it scares you when your kid tells you that they're gay or that they identify as LGBTQ plus. So it scares you or it makes you uncomfortable. So those are the two main. Well, either you loving them and accepting them and just like kind of celebrate who they are and things like that right off the get go, which I like, you can be in this conversation to kind of get support and kind of know how to support them more. But the other reactions are either you're scared or it makes you uncomfortable. I understand the part where it makes you scared. Again, we talk about they already have a hard time in society. Like, I remember having this conversation with one of my clients. It's like, okay, so you're gonna have some pushback from society. You're gonna have some labels. And she was in ninth grade, so a freshman, I think sophomore, a freshman, and so it was like, okay, you already know, like at school, is there more people that identify as that, so that you can kind of relate to them and things like that. And one of the things that she says, like, not because we're lesbians means that we're going to be friends. It's like, no, okay, I get it. So my clients have taught me so much. Those conversations I have coworkers, and I have, I've had coworkers, I've had friends, I've had, so many people around me that they kind of teach me through this, and I'm trying to be as compassionate and as accepting as I can be. So, but it's like, it scares you as a parent because they're going to struggle. How the world, especially the world that we grew up in, we know the struggles that any member of the LGBTQ plus community had. I think there's more letters now, so I apologize if there's more letters and I am not aware. I think it's AI. So, but anyway, could be asexual and the other one I. So, but they already have trouble figuring it out themselves. They already have trouble in society. Their home is the place that they should feel safe. So you can express that, like, you know what, I know there's already hard out there for you. Society has this expectation. Society has this labels, has this, you puts members of the LGBTQ plus community in this bubble, which is not a very open and accepting bubble. So, but I am going to admit that I'm a little bit scared for you to be out there, but I'm going to support you and I'm going to advocate for you as much as possible. So you can have that type of conversation. Okay. So you build it together. You build this environment together where they feel safe and they feel accepted and they feel like they belong, like they have a home. And because that's the thing that pains me the most, when teenagers feel like they cannot be themselves at home with the people that love them the most, because I know parents love them the most. I know that for a fact. But when we feel scared, sometimes they feel rejected. So it's okay to accept that we feel scared, and that we feel scared for them. But we're gonna work together to make this the best. We're gonna make the best out of the situation, because we already know that they have struggle outside of your home. So the other reaction is if you are uncomfortable. That's completely different than if you're scared. If you're uncomfortable, it means that there's some limiting beliefs that you have around this. And we're going to talk about faith later. But I want to ask you, like, why does it make you uncomfortable? Um, are you sexualizing it in your head? Does it make you uncomfortable because of that? Because especially, if they're boys or if they're girls, like for me as a parent, it's like, well, at least I don't have to worry about getting pregnant or anything, things like that. But unless they're bi, or unless they, things like that. So there's other issues, and I'm going like very surface here about that, because I know if they're transgender, there's a whole other level of conversations and connection that they need to make, and identity, things like that. So, but like if it makes you uncomfortable, ask yourself why it makes you uncomfortable. What are your limiting beliefs, and how can you work through them so you can support and advocate for your child? I know you want your best for your child. So how can you do that to support them? So avoid that comment of you can be whatever you want to be, but just not in my house, because that is basically saying you're not accepted for who you are here in your home with the people that love you the most. So I know I've heard that a lot, especially in the Hispanic community. Reinforce that you love them. Reinforce that you love them no matter what, even if you're confused, even if you're uncomfortable, even if whatever. Reinforce them that you love them, and that you will do everything possible to help them figure this out and help them along the way. It's okay to say that. It's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, you know what? Ooh, this is the first one for me. I've never parented a child that identifies, or I never taught, or I never had a student, or if you're a coach, if you're a mentor that identifies as LGBTQ. I'm gonna do what I can to support you. So I remember I had a client. I would say years ago. I want to say about 10 years ago. She was my first young teenager that came to me and identified as an LGBTQ plus member. And it was my first client. I had built a relationship with her already. So it was, so it was like, it was eye-opening for me as a therapist, just because I had not worked with this population. But I remember making some comments here in therapy, and her not bad, but like kind of pushing back on me, which I'm glad, because obviously therapists were not perfect. So I felt that from her. And I was like, okay, there's some things that I need to learn. There are some things that I still don't understand. It was when all the labels were coming out, like I said, it was like 10 years ago, about non-binary and asexual and all the more labels, because I'm Gen X. So we had gay, and less, but it was mainly just saying gay, and then you were straight or gay, and that was it. So we did not have labels for more, more descriptions, or for more identities. And so it was when all this was beginning. It was new to me, at least at that point. It was not something that I had dealt with, because my children were still young. Now my children are older, so they're older teenagers, so they're educating me a lot about the language and what's happening in the world. But for me, in my own little bubble as a therapist, that was new to me. So I remember feeling her pushback and her advocating for herself, again, because we had built that therapeutic relationship. So it was eye-opening to me to say, oh wow, okay, so I'm getting pushback from my own client, and I'm the therapist where she should feel safe and accepted. And so I remember I took a certification, not a certification, but I took like a professional development on understanding first the language, the pronouns, and all these things, so that I could service my client better. And then after that, I started getting more clients that identified as an LGBTQ plus you know, that was their identity. So anyway, so get educated, understand the language, ask them questions. So if they tell you like, oh yeah, I identify as this blank, ask the question like, can you explain to me what that means? Like, and dumb it down, like water it down as much as possible, because all this slang and this and that and things like that. So just ask them to break it down for you so that you can start building that connection. So remember that as human beings, especially teenagers and young adults, we thrive when we feel accepted. We thrive when we feel somebody loves us for exactly who we are. That's what we thrive on. And that's the message we want to give them. We want our children to thrive. And remember, this is an identity. This is not a lifestyle choice. This is part of who they are. So whether you like it or not, whether you accept them in your house or not, in your home, this is who they are. So you're building that environment for them. So we thrive where we feel accepted and we feel loved. So be that safe space for your child. Be curious, not judgmental. Just be curious. Can you explain to me how that is? Um, you know, if you don't know what to ask, tell me more. Can you tell me more about what's going on, how you feel? Who have you told? Who have you shared this with? Um, just so that you know as a parent, okay, is this something that they're ready to come out? Because one thing is that they tell you, and one you're either the first person they tell to, or you're the last person they tell you they tell to. So that's based on the relationship that you have and how scared they were too. It's part of personality. So don't take it all as it's your fault. But just take it as, okay, at least they're communicating. And then ask them like, how can I help you in this situation? What is it that you need from me? What is it that you need from me? How can I help you advocate for you? How do you want me to communicate, with the family members or with anybody that is around us? Like, is that something that, we're going to talk about? Is this something that, like, out and let them keep ownership of their own story, unless they ask you to, but let them have their own story. That's a story for them to say. That's not for you to tell people, oh yes, my daughter identifies as this. Or, so if you need to have a therapist, like, or if you can ask your child, or if you need to have a therapist, process that through a therapist in the privacy of that therapeutic relationship. And ask your child, do you want a therapist so you can kind of work this through? Not because, and I've had people reach out to me as a therapist, like, I really don't want them to be this. Can you shake it out of them? No, that's not something to shake out. That's something we can process, and we can find, we can find how they are really identified, so they can help them be more, have more self-confidence and have self-esteem, and how they identify themselves, or clear any confusion. But that doesn't mean that they get to go back to be straight. That's not, again, for a child to identify as to identify as LGBTQ plus, it's part of their identity. So it's not like they're gonna go back. They might have some questions. They might need to learn how to navigate this, this new identity, or this identity. Even if it's young adults, they're still trying to navigate this identity. It's not easy. And I see it all the time with my clients. It's not easy to navigate this environment, because a lot of people still have so many stigmas about the LGBTQ plus community. Now, a good conversation that you can have with your child um, is expectations of behavior. So the same expectation that you would have with your 50-year-old boy who is straight, have the same expectation of behavior of your 15-year-old boy that has told you that they identify as gay. So we're talking about monogamy, we're talking about protected sex, we're talking about, sharing partners, we're talking about, so have the same values with your straight child than with your child that identifies as LGBTQ plus. Have that open conversation. If it makes you uncomfortable, it's, just kind of work through it. And you're the adult. You're the one that knows how to process emotions. You're the one that knows how to have difficult conversations. If you're not, go find a therapist, a life coach, but remember to protect their identity, to protect their privacy, to protect their confidentiality. So make sure that you protect that too, because that's a way to build their trust. So if it's an older adult and they came out to you years ago and you're still having issues with, like, well, you can be that, but you can be that outside my house, kind of reevaluate and find a mental health professional for you so you can kind of work through those emotions. So advocate for them. And when others are disrespectful, when you're in family reunions and they make a disrespectful comment, advocate for your child, educate the family, or don't go around with the family until you figure out how to advocate for your child, until you figure out how to speak up for your child. Your child might not have the courage right now, if they're younger especially, they might not have the courage yet to say anything. So how can you advocate? I'm not saying build enemies. I'm not saying get into battles. I'm not saying get into arguments. I'm not saying that, but just in a very compassionate and respectful way, say, you know what, that was a comment that's not it's not necessary. Can we please refrain from comments like that? And if they kind of continue, then you stop. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna be part of this argument. I'm just gonna either remove myself from the argument. But just know that if my child identifies as LGBTQ plus, I love my child and I will support them and advocate for them at all times. Just like we would do with any other aspect. Like, again, we have to see it as a part of their identity, not a face. Not you're doing it for attention. Not like you can be that, but you can be that outside my doors. That's not the approach that's all of those are saying, I don't want you here. I don't accept it for who you are. And that's the complete opposite of what we want to do, of what we're going to say. So the faith, let's go ahead and address that. Yes, I identify as non-denominational. I have read the Bible. I know what the Bible says. I've read the Bible a couple of times actually. And I just want to say, yes, there's some things that the Bible says. There's a lot of things the Bible says. And I feel like a lot of people focus on one or two phrases in the Bible that said about this and not everything else. Because the Bible also says that we were born sinners. You, me, and everybody else in this planet. We're born sinners. Everybody's a sinner. There's nobody perfect. There was only one perfect human holy man that walked this earth more than 2,000 years ago. So I am going to be very abrupt with this question, but who do you think you are? How holy do you think you are? Or how arrogant do you think you are to say that these people should not be accepted in the church and these people, yes. And my people, yes. Because I'm not choosing that lifestyle. May I remind you that Jesus loves everybody. God is love. So you're a sinner, whatever your sin is, whether you eat too much, whether you drink too much, whether you watch too much porn, whether you look at somebody else's partner and you desire them, whether you're jealous of somebody else, there's so many things that makes us unholy. And we are unholy. We're all sinners here. And the Bible also says a sin is a sin. It's not like your sin is better. Your sin, you said a white lie, so you're okay. And you said a black, no, the Bible does not. That is something that we have said. Now, if you are uncomfortable with that, go back and read the actual Bible. Not the rules that the churches have, not the rules that your denominations have, not what your pastor believes in, but actually what you believe in. Because I do believe in the God that spreads love, acceptance, that created every single one of us, that created our identity just as it is. And there's a purpose, and there's for everything. He does not make mistakes. So if you are a person of faith, that's the excuse that you give your child of why they shouldn't do this, or why they shouldn't choose this lifestyle. There's a peace in your heart that is not love. So I know a God that loves and accepts. I know we're all sinners here. I know we sin every single day. If you think that you don't, you're the biggest sinner in this planet. So love is the connection here. Love does not reject. God does not reject love. God will never reject love. So the day that you die, you had looked at somebody else, or you ate too much, or you did not honor your body, or you did not honor your wife, or you did not honor your husband, or you stole, or you said a white lie, or it doesn't matter. That we're all this. It's all the same. Sin is a sin. So pick and choose your battle. Like, stop giving people the message that you are better than them because you don't identify as LGBTQ plus. That does not make you better. That just makes you straight. That's it. It's not that it's normal or not. That label does not exist in this, because it's part of your identity. It's like going back to Hitler and saying all the Jews, they're sinners, so they're all gotta die. Yeah. Okay. Have I said enough? Love and accept. If you're uncomfortable, you get help, you figure it out. But your child has a deep need to feel love and accepted, to find a safe space where they feel they can be themselves, where they're embraced for who they are completely, not just parts of them, but the whole of them. I know you love your child. Embrace everything. This is who they are. This is not a phase. This is not a choice. This is not a lifestyle. This is part of their identity, just like the blood that runs through their veins. So get the help that you need if you're uncomfortable, if you're scared, and ask your child, would you like a therapist to work through this? So that you can have the self-confidence, the self-esteem to go out there in the world knowing exactly who you are. Embrace yourself and advocate for yourself. Love is the connection. Love is always the answer. Yes, it's a scary world out there, but love is always, always the answer, and it's the best way. And this is our youth that we're talking about, and we're the adults. We are the adults. We get to embrace them. We get to accept them. The world has already given them a hard time. The world has already given them crap and rejection and hate and labels and this and that. Let's not do that in their home, in your home. And your first home is your heart. Please let me know if you have any questions, any comments. I'll be more than happy to assist you with anything. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. I have my YouTube channel also. I've posted several things here on Facebook, so feel free to connect with me. And if we need some coaching, if we need some relationship, healing, because your child came out to you years ago, and or not too long ago, and you already react, and then you feel scared, and you feel this, and you feel that. Let me reach out for help. Not just me, but reach out for anybody, for a mental health professional. There's organizations that can support your child, and they can support you in this process. I will add them here in the comments later once I learn how to post this on Facebook because it's my first live. But I will add a couple of the resources that I have found that can support your teen, your young adult, or your relationship with yourself, so you can accept it and spread the love that you, or show them the love that you have for them. So thank you very much for listening. Now let me put my glasses on so I can. Yes. Thank you very much, you guys. See you later.